Thank you. Welcome to the Nightly
Thank
Show.
you. My name is Larry Wilmore, and you are tuned in to the Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. Up first, we have a very special guest, the guy who cured AIDS. Please welcome the guy who cured AIDS. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So, you're the guy who cured AIDS. Let me ask you this. Black people... excuse me? White people... I literally found the cure to HIV. Don't you want to talk about black people? You do realize AIDS disproportionately affects... Who cares about all of that when there's literally white people? Yeah, I'm going to go because this was a mistake. Sounds good, just don't forget to take all of these white people with you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. I love all of you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Larry Wilmore. This podcast is the best thing Larry could get after, since unfortunately losing his TV show on Comedy Central, The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. It was a race-baiting piece of crap. Anyways, folks, here is Glofcast number 4. I am your host, Glof, a.k.a. Young Fivehead, a.k.a. Little Big Skull, a.k.a. Two Big Heads, a.k.a. Needs Big Hats, a.k.a. I don't even know, man. But here today, we're going to be talking about the 5 remaining tracks off of Beyonce and Kanye's newest album, Zyklon Bay, spelled B-E-Y, Bay, Zyklon Bay. But before we get to that, a few things. Firstly, I understand there's a video on the internet of Cardi B pooping. I need this for research purposes, so if any of my listeners, all 5 of you, find this, I will throw you and your friends a pizza party. Now, there's a maximum quota of 5 pizzas I am willing to provide, and I get to decide where they are from. So if you get, 19 normal-sized friends, or 9 fat friends, including yourself, or 4 really fat friends, you could have a party, and or you could just have this for meals for the week. I don't know what you do. I don't really care. So just a little contest there. Yes, Cardi B pooping. Also, before we get into the main bit, we are going to talk today about, the Chronicles of Pastor Charles. So, my current position is, it's a bit of a summertime temporary position, in-between position at a moving company just to pay the bills. And one of the individuals I work with is an elderly Baptist pastor named Pastor Charles, a man whose knowledge of the Bible is unsurpassed, both in terms of verses and context. So, upon starting the position, I was told that Pastor Charles had a daily Bible verse of the day, but it depended upon which book you asked him about. So, the other day, I go up to Pastor Charles and ask him, Pastor Charles, what do you think about the book of Galatians? And he responds, man, I Galatian my foot, yes. So, it goes on, and the very next day, I go up to him and ask, Pastor Charles, what do you think about the book of James? And he responds yet again, man, I James my foot, yes. So the beautiful thing about all of this is that you could go up to Pastor Charles and ask him about any book of the Old or New Testament, and he would respond the same exact way by telling you that he's going to insert Bible book here, his foot in your ass. If that sounds slightly sacrilegious, that's because it probably is. Pastor Charles was highly irreverent at times for a low church Protestant, but he did know the Bible very well. And if he ever converted to Islam, he'd probably be Mohammedaning his foot in various people's asses as well. He was also, unbeknownst for Baptist pastors, sometimes he was known for his activism, but not necessarily in the way that most know activism in 2018. So he actually borrowed heavily stylistically from Westboro Baptist Church, and although he'd use his activism to reach a much more productive ends from a secular standpoint. So, for example, he stole his good friend Fred Phelps's God Hates Fags sign, but he used it to protest at Marvel's HQ. So he's a very self-aware man, and like much of the largely irrelevant Westboro Baptist Church, he is a lawyer by trade, and I don't really know why he's working at a moving company right now, but you know what? It's his life, it's not mine. So, but even he knew that the Westboro Baptist Church protesting funerals is not as bad as drowning infidels in cages. So that is the Chronicles of the Great Pastor Charles. He may be returning at some point in the future, but one way to describe him is an evangelical whose motivations can be appreciated by the secular. So in my opinion, he is a man worth meeting. He has made my life a little bit better by knowing simply that he exists. So be on the lookout for a Pastor Charles here. Okay, so now on to the main bit. As you remember from last week's episode, we discussed the first 5 tracks of Beyonce and Kanye's newest album, Zyklon Bay. So today we are going to speak about the last 5 tracks on the 10-track album. A bit of a recap of last week. The first 5 tracks were called Feast, Zyklon Bay, Yas Queen Slay, Every Girl is a Queen, and No More Democratic Parties in LA. And if you listen to the tracks, they gradually got slightly more dystopian. They started with Kanye, eating lots of croissants and repeating that he wants whoever is responsible for getting him his croissants to hurry up. And Zyklon Bay was a Lemonade-inspired track where Beyonce talks about the gas used in the Holocaust. Yas Queen Slay is a testament to Beyonce as herself, I guess you could say. Every Girl is a Queen is a testament to femininity, regardless of the anatomy. And No More Democratic Parties in LA was probably the most dystopian of the 5. So if you want a more balanced recap on the 5 of those, I recommend taking a listen to Glofcast 3. So that last week's podcast is hot, wet, ready, and willing to take your attention. So there's that. So bear in mind that the underlying motif of Zyklon Bay, if you listen to the first Glofcast 3 and you're going to listen today, it's reminiscent of a line in a Kendrick Lamar song called Mortal Man, the last track in his album. What the hell is that album's called? Why can't I remember? God damn it. Oh, fuck, God. How can I, come on. It's not Good Kid, Mad City. Come on, what the fuck? Oh my God. Oh God. Hold on 1 fucking second. Why can't I fucking remember this? To Pimp a Fucking Butterfly. Holy shit. I apologize. Holy shit. Wow. To Pimp a Butterfly, it was probably going to go down as one of the best albums of the decade, if it already hasn't. I love it. I think it's a phenomenal album. But, oh, Jesus, how the fuck did I forget that? I don't know. I think Good Kid, Mad City is a little bit of an easier listen, so I've listened to it a little bit more. So that may be why. But anyway, where was I going with this? He was, so the last song on To Pimp a Butterfly, Mortal Man, there's a line that says, "When shit hits the fan, is you still a fan?" So Beyonce, having the unapologetically rabid fan base that she does, is taking this concept to the extreme on the album Zyklon Bay by putting her fans in a morally dubious position, especially when she has Kanye West on the album, who is a very naughty boy, trademark, with some very naughty opinions, another trademark. So when this album eventually comes out, be aware that shit is about to hit the fan, and when it does, is you still a fan? Starting off this week at track 6 will be a feature from Twitch streamer and esports genius and celebrity Stephen Bonnell II, otherwise known as Destiny, and godfather of the 90s ultra group Destiny's Child. I recommend, if you have access to Google right now, look up a picture of Stephen Bonnell II, Destiny. Type that into Google Images, and you will see the resemblance that this man plays to Beyonce. So there is a debate on if he is Beyonce's actual father within the Bayhive community, but I digress, and this track is named Come Forth. So the track is essentially Beyonce covering the Catholic hymn Ave Maria, juxtaposed as some slight background noise behind the Twitch streamer Destiny, Stephen Bonnell II, excusing pedophilia in the esports community in his talk with Andy Worski, Mr. Medicare, also known as Jim, and Talkasaw. These are three YouTubers. I don't know how well you all are acquainted with something called internet blood sports. These are it's essentially you go on a stream and you scream at each other. And I don't really particularly find it interesting, but basically there was one I found interesting, and that was when Destiny was talking to these three gentlemen about pedophilia in the esports community. So he, at one point during the talk, Mr. Bonnell II actually refused to come forth and name the individuals involved with it after acknowledging the fact that they do in fact exist. So back to Beyonce. Since she skipped the 2018 Met Gala, the one with the Catholic Imagination theme, Beyonce wanted to get in on the ripping of Catholicism by juxtaposing a Catholic hymn behind the dialogue of an esports pedo apologist. She thinks this somehow makes an actual statement. So the end of the song ends with her dying, a metaphorical, sounding literal death within the album somehow. But do not despair, for Queen Bey will rise again later in the album in true messianic fashion, Messiah complex fashion, rather. So shit has hit the fan here. Not a lot of good. Is you still a fan? After Beyonce's metaphorical death in track 6, track 7 is going to be a Kanye-only anthem called Blood Diamond. It's going to be a slight throwback to his 2010 album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and I also think this is a great album, so go listen to it. So in my opinion, it's an album which, in my view, encompasses a very interesting culmination of high culture and pop culture, while still being a deeply personal meditation on fame, excess, and consumerism. So from a production standpoint, Kanye borrows stylistically largely from the South African hip-hop group D'Antwoord, I think, in that the beat is a little bit erratic and chaotic while still coming at it with some high culture influences from MBDTF. So lyrically, Kanye takes a very interesting approach to this song as he relates the consumerism of diamonds down in South Africa, blood diamonds if you will, with the neo-apartheid racial struggle currently taking place in South Africa as primarily an anti-consumerist treatise. So it's very interesting. He's combining all of these South African motifs within this song, such as D'Antwoord, diamonds, and neo-apartheid struggle, and kind of lays it out to be a anti-consumerist anthem. So it's an anti-consumerist treatise. So it gives the impression that it's going to be a commentary on the current American political climate as we all know and love, such as anthems such as This Is America. But he never actually gets there. Kanye he's not really interested in actually going there, probably due to the already blatant oversaturation in that political discourse. So in a way, you can see Kanye kind of giving the listener, who is obviously socially conscious and politically charged listener, a little bit frustrated with this. So you can think of it in terms of as a set of cultural blue balls, if you will. So it's anti-consumerist, which really, I know these days it's associated more with the left, but there is a right contingent that actually has anti-consumerist tendencies as well. And nobody's really too familiar with those, but he's not really taking sides here. He's just kind of taking sides against the consumerist culture that is blatant in America. And he's not really going much farther than that. And that does leave the listener to be a little bit confused and frustrated. So this leaves the cultural blue balls. So it's a further testament to Kanye doing what Kanye wants, so not necessarily going into what one thinks he should be doing. So this is just kind of a Kanye doing whatever the hell he wants. He's not doing what
people are telling him to do. He's always kind of been like this. He does things kind of for him and his own artistic vision. He doesn't necessarily do the things that people tell him to do, as is very apparent if you follow him on Twitter. So that is track 7, Blood Diamond. Track 8 is going to be a real treat if you were a fan of Eminem. So the 8th track is a track called Resurrection featuring Eminem. So if you do remember Beyonce in the track 6 having the metaphorical death, this is where she comes back, folks. You can get very happy now. And it also features Eminem, so that's right, the greatest rapper of all time ever, the rap god, trademark, has made an appearance on this album with Queen, C-U-I-N-E, Bey, B-E-Y. So that's right, instead of making another mediocre rendition in his long line of re-albums, such as, Relapse, Recovery, all that crappy crap. So I never really liked the re-album. Some people did. Actually, I don't really know anybody that really did. Eminem decides to, at long last, end that line. So this is, I don't know, think of it almost as a rebirth or resurrection that he finally ditches those fucking re-albums. So I don't know how fitting it is that he ends that rendition of re-albums on an album that is not his. But, regardless, he does what he feels this is the best place to do it. So, the re-albums of Eminem end here at Resurrection. The song begins with Beyonce rising again from her death in Song 6 and sings actually a decent little number about life, death, and the nature of consciousness as a type of cycle, one where there is no true beginning or true end. There just simply is. So it's actually a little bit profound. It's slightly profound, more profound than usual, I guess you could say. The beat is reminiscent of a Baptist choir on Easter, a very happy, upbeat gospel rhythm, adding to the messianic complexness of the entire thing that Beyonce is kind of known for. So, meanwhile, Eminem is rapping about how much he loves Jewish people and how, despite atrocities being committed on both sides, he ultimately sides with Israel and considers Netanyahu to be one of his dearest friends. I know nobody asked for this, but I'll continue, despite never having met him. So, nobody really knows why he's doing this, but he is the rap god, TM. So we should stop questioning it. So as is apparent, there are several messianic themes on this track, and it comes equipped with an analysis of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that nobody asked for. This is the last thing that anybody could have ever wanted, including me, probably including you, including the general American public. So nobody wanted this. Eminem decided to give it to us anyway, so whatever, it's here. So, could it be possible that shit hits the fan even more soon? We still have 2 more tracks, compadres. So, the 9th track is going to be a track called Devil Horns. This is a sequel to Beyonce's song Halo, which came out in the late 2000s, I believe. Although it takes a more drastic turn than is anticipated. So, it starts off with a weird rendition of Halo, instrumentally and vocally, where she's all like, Halo, 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 in a weird deep-ass voice that is almost reminiscent of, like, I don't know, Nickelback or something. It's like, and that instrumental for Halo occurs as normally in the beginning, but gradually slows down to a halt, and eventually it cuts out completely and is replaced by an Alex Jones segment of him describing the devil. Well, you see, Joe, the devil is this, the devil for all intents and purposes, the new world order, the globe, like just all that, nonsense. So, Beyonce is in the background saying like, and then dancing like a possessed person with devil horns coming out of her forehead. So, chalk this up to something very terrifying. Shit is definitely hitting the fan, folks. So this is going to be, I think, one of the more secretive tracks on the album, which is why I don't really have too much information on this at this current point in time. You are simply going to have to wait and listen to it then. I don't really know too much in terms of analyses here. So that is track 9, Devil Horns. And the 10th and final track of the album is called Blitzkrieg Bop, And is it a fitting? It's a fitting ending for this album, in my opinion. So it's a cover of the Ramones song "Blitzkrieg Bop," stripped down to a haunted, post-apocalyptic sounding beat. If you can get kind of a theme of the instrumentals that are on this album, if you've gotten that theme, you're probably correct. The music video for this shows Kanye and Beyonce in Nazi uniforms being arrested in a nuclear landscape, nuclear hellscape, if you will. It is not alluded to if the two of them are the cause of the post-apocalyptic landscape, but it is apparent that shit has hit the fan more so than it ever has before, anywhere previously in the album, to be quite frank with you. So, it is I lost my place. So it has ultimately led everybody that has ever. So it's apparent that the future has failed both of them and everybody around them, and that's kind of going to be one of the themes of this song. It's the failure of the future, which has actually led everybody that has ever loved them to abandon them. There are also large themes of abandonment here. So in the distance, you see kind of a cemetery with names such as Kim Kardashian, Jay-Z, Northwest, and Solange, all on the tombstones. It's going to be kind of a variety of tombstones. Those were just some examples. So it'll be kind of the death of everything that has been important to them. So in addition to other people who may be very close to these people, you will also see individuals or groups, for that matter, that you would not expect to see, or even really concepts such as Fame or the Bay Hive or even Donald Trump. So really kind of anything that could be remotely useful to either of them, it's going to be on these tombstones, signifying a death of that. But as it was alluded to earlier in the album, death as a cycle, death in life as a cycle of rebirth and redemption and never really beginning or ending will kind of play here, so it does leave on a bit of a positive note. But anyway, shit has definitely hit the fan. So like I previously said, it's a song dealing with the nature of abandonment and shit hitting the fan, like really hitting the fan. And in the end, the world has abandoned them, leaving the listener to wonder if they should remain in that realm at all. So the fact that the song is a cover of a 1970s punk band is an allusion to the fact that mining the past may yield actual answers for the future, as opposed to waiting for a better future or kind of trying to create new things for the future. So it's a bit of a mockery of the pre-9/11 world that suggested we lived at the end of history. That's who knows. That's kind of my interpretation of it. So they're kind of the illusion of haunting the, or not haunting the past, kind of like mining the past for cultural artifacts in order to kind of create the future. That's also kind of a motif of that song. So that really kind of gives leeway for several of their future projects, which I think is kind of a fitting way to end the album. But anyway, yeah, the last song is a cover of Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones for Kanye and Beyonce. So that, my friends, is Beyonce and Kanye's newest album, Zyklon Bay. As you can see, there are quite a few themes on there, such as messianic themes, themes of abandonment, themes of shit hitting the fan, themes of mining the future, or mining the past for the future. Quite a bit of themes on here. A little bit of irony, but it's still some pastiche at the same time. So if any of the above sounded like I may have been mean, bear in mind that everything I said was done in complete admiration for Kanye and Beyonce, and even Eminem. For I'm a fan of Beyonce, Kanye, and Eminem. So I'm simply reporting to you what is going on with the next album, Zyklon Bay. Things are getting bad. Will you be there for it as a fan? Because I sure as heck will. So thank you for tuning in to the Glofcast episode 4. Next week, I'll be talking about something. I don't know yet. But it'll be some good shit once again, so I'm sure. So stay tuned, and thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.